You're listening to the Word Slinger Podcast, episode 51, Facebook Ads for Authors with Mark Dawson.
If you would like to support this program, or any of Kevin Tomlinson's work, then we invite you to become a reader. Get the Kevin Tomlinson Starter Library for free at kevintomlinson.com/starter library.
It's the Word Slinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented Pants Optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger.
Word Slinger.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger. Thanks for tuning in again. Man, we're at 51 episodes. That is nearly a full year of episodes. That means the next episode, you could literally start at 1 and listen to an episode every single week for a full year. My gift to you. So, today, this interview is actually with somebody. I dig this guy a lot. Now, not just because he has a cool British accent, but also because his program has helped me quite a bit. It's helped my business partner Nick Thacker quite a bit too. We got into the Facebook Ads for Authors training course put on by Mark Dawson, and we're putting that to work, helping us sell our books. And it's interesting because a lot of it is about list building. Getting people to come and sign up, which has always been a problem. It's always a challenge to get people to pop in and, sign up and download a free book or something or whatever, but, whatever the incentives may be, but it's always been difficult to get people to first come to you, no matter what you're offering, with the intention of getting on your mailing list. And that mailing list is so vital. It's become increasingly important. So it's always great to have some tool that helps you jump ahead in that game. So, and that's exactly what this program does. I'm going to confess I don't make anything from pitching this. There's no affiliate link or anything like that. Maybe I should talk to Mark about that. Get some kind of affiliate relationship going here. But for the moment, I don't have that. But I would pitch this anyway because it's a useful tool, and I think no matter who you are, no matter what your entrepreneur spin is, I think Facebook ads are a vital tool for building your mailing list. But beyond that, we're experimenting with using this for direct sales too. So we are actually seeing some direct sales off of these Facebook ads. So that's a cool thing. I mean, I think any entrepreneur could use this. Authors in particular are going to like this because it's geared specifically for them. And Mark's an author. He's a New York Times best-selling author, actually. So if you are an author, you'll probably get a lot out of this just from the surface down. You definitely want to go sign up for this course. And it's being re-released this month, October 2015, depending on when you're listening to this. So it's getting a refresh. It's going to come out with new information that's going to be pointing you to new aspects of the Power Editor, which is a vital tool in Facebook ads. A lot of people don't even know it's there, but it's actually the key, I think, to making this work. There's also going to be a tie into something near and dear to my heart, which is going to be a surprise, actually. I can't reveal what it is, so hang on, hang out, keep listening. At any rate, if you're not an author, you can still get a lot out of this because that Facebook ads course teaches you all the fundamentals of building a Facebook ad and aiming it at the right audience. Something useful for you, no matter who you are. So I would definitely check that out, no matter what aspect of the industry you're in. Now I'm going to let you go ahead and roll right into this interview. It was a great interview, and I appreciate Mark coming on the show. And I'm looking forward to having some conversations with him in the future. We got a couple of things brewing, so I think it's going to be fun. You can also look out for him and the Facebook Ads for Authors course and a whole bunch of additional stuff on the Self-Publishing Answers podcast with me, Nick Thacker, and Justin Sloan. So be sure to tune in there, keep listening, keep watching, and enjoy this interview with Mark Dawson. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And today I'm sitting with Mark Dawson. He's an author. His most recent book is Headhunters, and you should definitely pick that up at Amazon and other retailers. But he's also the creator of Facebook Ads for Authors through Self-Publishing Formula, and you can find that at selfpublishingformula.com. And I'm a student of that. I've seen some growth from that, Mark, man, so I appreciate you building something that actually taught me something for once.
Fantastic. It makes me happy.
So, and I want to talk about that. I do want to talk about that, but I also want to talk about your work in general, your fiction work. Why don't you give us kind of a rundown of how you got into this and what you do, what type of fiction you do?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I write kind of espionage thrillers. Those are the ones that sell best for me. I've also got a kind of a series that is on hiatus at the moment that's kind of noirish thrillers set in London during the Blitz and the years after that. Okay. But, I mean, going back to when I started, I was traditionally published 15, 16 years ago by Macmillan in the UK and Russia, weirdly enough. And it was okay. It was working with good people. I had a great agent. My editor was great. But the experience was ultimately a bit dissatisfying because as soon as the books hit the shelves, that was the high point, and from that point onwards, it was disappointing. So, they hit the shelves, but they hit the wrong shelves. So they'd be too high or too low. So I'd go in and rearrange them, and then the next day, the staff would have done their jobs and put them back into the places they were supposed to be. So that was a bit disappointing, and I didn't feel that the marketing wasn't really there. There was minimal promotion. My abiding memories of that is being given a box of books by my publicist and being told to go out and get some reviews, which I did. I was quite successful, got some quite big ones, but I didn't expect that was the kind of thing that I would have to do.
Yeah.
I thought I was the writer, and that was kind of the reason I was giving them 85% of the cover price was because they would be helping me with that kind of stuff, and it didn't happen. So that was ultimately not the experience that I guess I was hoping for, and I kind of put me off writing for a while. So I didn't write for 6 or 7 years maybe, and I was a lawyer at the time, so I was trained as a lawyer in the City of London. So had a very well paid job. Didn't enjoy it much, but it was quite nice to cash the checks every month. And then I moved. I kind of basically got shuffled out. They realised my heart wasn't in it, so they said, maybe time you found another job. So I took the hint and went to work in Soho in London, which is kind of where it's kind of boutique-y law firm that acted for famous people suing newspapers. So it was fun. I worked with some very famous people, people like Madonna and people like that. So it was a more exciting kind of law, but I decided by the end of it that it was lawyers I didn't like particularly rather than the law, and I've never been ambitious enough to put the hours in for that kind of career. I'm ambitious in other ways.
Yeah.
So I had a couple of those books were published over that time, and the second one was a very thinly veiled autobiographical kicking lawyers and but telling some true stories about things that had happened to me whilst I was a lawyer. It was published, and all hell broke loose. All the press wanted to speak to me. All the newspapers, the breakfast TV here in the UK were keen to get me on the sofa to talk about this because everyone likes a lawyer putting their boot into other lawyers.
Right.
And they basically said, look, you don't really want to do this, do you? And I was like, no, not really. And I kind of decided it was the longest. I'd effectively written the longest career suicide note in history, and just because I didn't have the guts to do what I knew I needed to do, and so I basically wrote myself out of a job. So I took 6 months off and wrote a third book, which was absolutely diabolical, and no one will ever see it. So I was writing to the market what I thought the market wanted, rather than what I wanted to write. So that was a complete waste. And then I moved. I worked for 10 years actually for a organisation over here called the British Board of Film Classification. So the equivalent in the States would be the motion picture, the MPAA. So we watched the movies and gave them their age ratings on TV and stuff like that. So I was getting paid to watch movies, and I've always loved movies. So it was an amazing job. I would have been very happy to have stayed there. And I was in no hurry to leave when I did leave last year. But I guess 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, a friend of mine had started to publish on the Kindle, and he told me how cool it was. And I looked, and it did seem pretty easy. And he was getting some engagement with readers, which is something I'd never got before. I always had this dream that I'd see someone reading my stuff on the tube or on a bus, and that never happened. So, and he was getting emails from readers, and this just seemed really cool. So I got back into it again, started writing my first book back, which was one of those noir novels called The Black Mile. So I published that, did quite well. I published a follow-up that did a little better, not amazing. So, small amounts of money, but the books were quite good, I thought, and I was getting some engagement, which was cool. Yeah. And then I published, this would be like June 2013, I published the first John Milton book. Because I knew that, I soak up knowledge everywhere I can, and I knew that it was important looking at, back in those days, you're looking at guys like John Locke. I suppose Conrath was probably fairly active in those days, and I could see that the model that worked was to write fast and to publish quickly. Right. So the problem with those early books was they were massively demanding on research, because I'm quite anal about that. So if I write in a Thursday in 1945 in May, it was raining. It would have been raining because I would have checked. So it's
okay.
Which is
that's impressive.
it's lunacy. Yeah. That's the way to insanity. So. That's why it took so long to write those books, and all the other research and the language. I wanted it to be right and all that kind of stuff. So they're good books, but they were just taking too long. So I wanted to write something that was contemporary. The research could be done at my desk rather than going to newspaper archives and stuff like that. And I had this idea in my head for a while that I wanted to write about kind of a James Bond character, but if Bond had fallen out of love, if he'd ever been in love with his job and working for the government and wanted to leave. And also, I grew up in the 80s, and I used to love The Equalizer, the old WPC show. Big fan of Edward Woodward and all that kind of stuff. So I had this idea for kind of a grittier take on The Equalizer, or kind of a disheveled James Bond type angle. And that's what Milton is. And I published the first one in like May or June 2013, and it immediately did well. So I immediately started to see sales improve. I then published the second and third books, Saint Death and The Driver, towards the end of that year. So I immediately upped my productivity. And then we got into 2014, and I kind of went nuts. So I wrote 6 novels and 2 novellas last year, so nearly 1 million words published. And that was the moment. That was the tipping point when every time I released something, it did better. My mailing list continued to grow, and I started to turn on some. I started to use techniques that I was learning to build mailing lists more efficiently, convert things better, sell better, advertise better, promote better, all that stuff. And it got to November, and I quit my job. So I was doing very well at that point financially, and I haven't looked back. So got into this year, kept writing, and at the same time, I've been developing the Facebook course that you mentioned, which is a massive undertaking, much bigger than I thought it would be, but rewarding in other ways. So I've kind of split my time between the two now. I'm still, if you ask me what do I do, I'd say I'm a writer, but I also I have a fairly well received sideline in the course.
So what was the timeline between the first book and become what you now, I guess, and leaving your job in November? What was how many years was that, or months was that, weeks, whatever?
The first book would have been, I guess, 4 years ago, so The Black Mile, something like that.
Okay.
And I published the first Milton book in 2013 and left employment November the 28th. 2014, so about coming up to almost a year ago, just short of a year.
That's a quick progression. It kind of puts to bed that myth that it takes 10 years to succeed or something, right?
Yeah, no, that's not true.
But a big part of that success was, figuring out the marketing, which a lot of indie authors have trouble with. I had trouble with it as well, and I even work in marketing. So, what was the sort of road to figuring that process out?
Yeah, and I think the main thing when people ask me these days what was the first step you would do, and I'm employed now as a consultant for some big publishers over here who are trying to digitally publish their stuff, and one of the things I focus on, the main thing, is building a mailing list very early. So that would be my main piece of advice to anyone who's getting into this, is don't waste time, because I did waste time in getting a mailing list up. So I started to publish in the days when a free day meant something.
Yeah.
So it meant more because the algorithm treated a borrow or a free download around about the same as a sale.
Yeah.
I had days when, Amazon, the first time I did it, I think I had something like 50,000 downloads over a weekend. And if I'd had that now, there are ways you can harvest a good number of those emails or those potential readers, and you can put them on your list.
Yeah.
And when you've got them on your list, then you can market to them. Then they're not hidden from you on Amazon. You've got those readers, and you can make a relationship with them. You can connect with them.
Yeah.
So it would be build a list, and then treat your readers as more than just readers. So by that I mean answer every email, answer every Facebook interaction, every tweet. I try very hard to do that. It's getting difficult now. There's only one of me, and there's the course, and there's writing, and I've got two kids under 4. So it's very, very hard work. But that is focusing on turning readers into fans and then super fans and then putting them on your advanced team and all that kind of stuff. That's fundamental. And it's easy too. I mean, the main thing is just to be a nice guy, just to be honest and be real. Treat them as friends. It's a pretty simple way to bring that forward.
Yeah, being affable, that'll carry you a ways, right?
Absolutely, yeah, that definitely helps.
What have been some of the challenges there, though? I mean, with that workload and kids under 4,
yeah.
Wow. I mean, I can imagine challenges right away, but how difficult is it to kind of keep up?
It is tough. I mean, and last year I was doing this with a full-time job, so I'd the benefit of
See,
doing
that's
that
unbelievable.
yeah, that was when I look back at it now, it's kind of, I'm not quite sure how I did it, but I live in outside a town called Salisbury, which is very beautiful near Stonehenge in the southwest of England, and my job was in Soho in London, so I had an hour and a half on the train there and an hour and a half back. So there was 3 hours of uninterrupted writing time. So I'd get some noise cancelling headphones, put those on, get my laptop out. I always had a table, and I just write, and I could do 3,000 words without too much bother over the course of a day. And the maths are fairly self-explanatory. If you can do that as a minimum over the course of 5 days a week, before you know it, you've got a pretty impressive word count at the end of the year. Yeah. And that was how I did it.
Yeah, that's kind of fortuitous. I mean, I live in the Houston area, and I'm fortunate enough that I don't have to drive in anymore. For a job, really, a day job, really anymore. But that drive time, I have to spend driving, so I don't get to write.
Yeah, that's dead time.
Yeah. The U.S. isn't big on trains unless you're in the Northeast. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So okay, now that speaks to your work ethic for the books. I mean, what else goes into that for you? I mean, I know there's quite a bit. How do you lead up to like a book launch?
Well, that's been developed quite extensively I had a lot of practice last year, and I've released, let me think, 2 novellas this year, and 2 novels and 3 novellas this year, perhaps more than that. But anyway, something like that. So I've had lots of practice to get that right. So the way I do it is I'll finish the manuscript, send it to my copy editor, and it comes back to me. Then I'll send it to my advanced team. So I've got. I've turned those taps off now because I've got enough people in the team. But the book goes out to them, and they're self-selecting. So they responded to an email that went out as a part of one of my automation sequences back when I was running it. So there's a good number of them, and they come from all kinds of different walks of life. So I write action books, like James Bond. And I live in the UK. We're not big on guns over here, and I've never fired a gun, right? But Milton does that all the time, and 90% of my readers are in the States. So if you get things wrong with guns, you're going to get bad reviews, absolutely given. And I did make mistakes in the early days. I put safeties on guns that didn't have safeties. I'd call pistols revolvers, all kinds of stupid errors that just made me look like an amateur. So one of the benefits of the team is there are some special forces soldiers on the advanced team. So any of those kinds of issues, and there's some law enforcement people. There's even a submariner, which would be cool if I ever write about submarines.
Nice.
But yeah, they correct all those errors, which is great. They sometimes make really good plot suggestions, which a few times I've taken on board. they'll kind of feedback general, this worked for me, this didn't work for me, all that kind of stuff, and they pick up errors that have slipped through the editing process. So by the end of that stage of the process, I'm confident that the book is clean and accurate. So that's good. And then I will do what I call a soft launch. So I launch it just to the advanced team, and I say at that point, it's ready for reviews. I'd be really grateful if you have the chance to leave an honest review, whatever, 1 star is fine, whatever you want. And they do that. And I also set the price at 99 cents. And I'm kind of embarrassed to ask them, because I've already got this book for free, but I explain why it's helpful for an indie author for them to also purchase. So it's less than $1. And for that, their review gets the verified tag, which means it will be obviously taken a bit more seriously. And more importantly than that, it starts to prime the algorithm. So Amazon sees a few sales coming through, paid sales. The last time I did this for Headhunters, I had 199 sales at the 99-cent price point by the end of the first day, and that was enough to get the book up to around about 2,000 in the paid store, which is a really good platform for when I go to the final part of the launch process, which is is the hard launch, when I sell it to the rest of my list. And by that stage, the beta team had left their reviews, so I had about 150 reviews on the page within about 12 hours, which was amazing. And then, you just turn the taps on, and I think it got as high as like 102 on the store, and that was just off the back of my list. So no obvious promo from Amazon at that stage, but you can see, if you track the graph, when Amazon gets involved and you also start to get populated, you hit the right lists, and they start to email people who've bought your previous books and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, it's handy when you get Amazon on board with the marketing. So, well, that's a great plan, by the way, and it's funny because I just did an episode with Nick Thacker on Self-Publishing Answers podcast, where we talked about a killer book launch, and I think we only covered maybe half of what you just said, so maybe we should go back and redo that whole episode again. So I have to ask this, by the way, because John Milton, is there any like homage to the poet with the name?
No, there isn't, and one of the I like the romantic poets, and a few. There's a character called Pope, and a few others that I've sprinkled through. So it is kind of, I suppose, a very veiled. Yeah, it's tinted with it. But the weird thing is, one of my Facebook ads that I run at the moment, the kind of the hook line is, "Who is John Milton?"
Yeah,
and I've got irritated now by this stage with people saying, "Yeah, he's the poet, isn't he? I know who he is."
Oh, bummer. Because it's such a great like leading tag, really,
Yeah, exactly, and it works. I mean, to be honest, those comments are just deleted, so it doesn't bother me. That I'm completely fine with it. It's not an issue. I also quite like the Paradise Lost illusion. So he was never in paradise, but his life has gone off at a tangent, and it's.
You should just own the whole thing and call it symbolism. Just own it. The whole thing is Paradise Lost played out as espionage. So okay, that brings us to the Facebook ads and the course and everything. What led? Clearly you're pulling from your own experience here, and so you had your sort of traditional publishing run, and how long did that last? What?
I think I was published around about the turn of the millennium, so 99, 2000, and then another one 18 months after that, so like between 2000 and 2002. All
right, so did you pick up things from that you're now using, or is it just that
no,
it was so nothing. Inadequate you needed to come up with a way to make this work better?
Exactly. There's not a great deal that. Traditional publishing is developing, and they will eventually catch us up. But we're about 5 years down the road, I'd say.
It does feel
so.
Like
No,
that,
I don't learn much from them.
So, what was the sort of inspiration for developing this course?
Well, it was taken from my experience. So I was in KU when it was Kindle Unlimited, the first iteration of that, and I was a Kindle All-Star the first 4 or 5 months, which was nice. So they were giving me a bit of $1,000 or $2,000 extra on top of the royalties for being one of the bigger downloaded authors, which was great. And then people started to move in and started to game it a bit with shorter books and books is probably being generous, so shorter pamphlets and stuff. And so that they were I found it was impossible to compete with big novels when you've got people uploading 100 items. It just didn't work. So I thought, okay, one way I might be able to kind of up my game a bit and try and increase those downloads would be to start directing traffic from Facebook. So I don't know exactly where I got the idea to do this, but it's something it triggered in my head somewhere. So I originally started to try and drive traffic to the Amazon pages for the KU books, and my targeting would have been to try and basically show the ads to people who were in Kindle Unlimited. But it wasn't that. It's not easy to find those people, and if you do, you're not necessarily going to get thriller readers. You might get romance readers and stuff. So I was doing okay, but definitely negative return. It was inefficient, and it wasn't driving enough traffic to boost me back up the rankings again. But I'd seen enough, and I taught myself how to use the platform, and I'd seen enough potential there that I wasn't prepared to give up. So I just thought, okay, so that didn't work. What else could I use these ads for? And the idea I had originally was to use them to advertise my reader magnet, the free. I give away a starter library of 4 novels, two novels and 2 novellas, and I wanted to advertise that and start to get some subscribers. So this would be like January this year, and I started to do that, and I immediately saw a positive return. So I was getting 15, 20 new subscribers every day, and I'm thinking, okay, that's interesting. So then I'd dive into everything I could on internet marketing. So I kind of moved. Last year was indie publishing podcasts. I'm kind of through that now, and I'm into proper internet marketing. So I learned as much as I could about landing pages and how to optimize those, so you reduce leaks and your conversion percentage goes up and all that kind of stuff. I was continually refining the targeting and the ad copy and the images I was using on the ads. And I did this for 6 weeks, I think, and added about 2,000 to 3,000 new subscribers. A reasonable cost, 20 to 30 cents per subscriber. And that struck me as interesting. So then I moved on to try and actually sell books. So this was the kind of adding subscribers is a long-term career play, because I survey my readers, and I know that the read-through rate is very high. So if I can get them to take the gateway drug, so that's the books I'm giving away, I'll hook them, and I can sell them more drugs, to use an analogy. So, but I wanted to try something a bit more, something that would have a quicker return. So I thought, okay, I'll try and sell some books again. So I tried individual books, and the price didn't. $2 to $3.99 is quite a difficult price to convert at a profit. Maybe we'll get into that a bit later. But I moved up to $6.99 and box sets. So $6.99 gives you enough leeway to not be ridiculously aggressive in the conversion rate that you need. But it also offers great value to the reader. So if you say, look, here we are, 4 books for $6.99, that's quite compelling. And immediately that started to work. So my targeting got better. My returns were immediately kind of, surprisingly good. So I'd spend 10 or 20 bucks a day, and we'd be making 40 or 50 bucks. And then I'd reinvest that and spend 50 bucks and make 100 bucks. So I could see quite clearly that this was something potentially quite special. And I just kept working at it. I kept getting better at it. My return went up, and it's got to the stage now. And this is the bit where indie writers go, I can't do this, because I'm spending $500 a day usually on ads, and making making 800, 850. So that's, people focus on the 500, but that's not necessary. I didn't start like that. I was starting with $5 or $10, and then just gradually, as I got better and better, investing a bit more. So you don't need a massive budget to be able to do this. And I'm fortunate now that I'm in a position where I can afford that, but it wasn't always like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like rolling it over at the track.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But these are bets you can't. I say you can't lose them. You can lose them. You have to be careful, but it's a pretty rosy outlook right now, and we rolled the course out, and it's been really gratifying. I mean, it's been successful financially for us, which is very pleasing. But this is going to sound like a terrible cliche, but I really mean it. We're getting so many testimonials now from guys who have left their jobs because suddenly this is the rocket fuel they needed to start selling. I just pulled up a Facebook message I got from an author called John Logston, who writes kind of Terry Pratchett, Douglas Adams comedy, sci-fi, and fantasy. And he was one of our testers. So I kind of let him in early and let him use the subscription model that I use. And I asked him yesterday, because I don't know if you saw the article on Digital Book World about how it's like Facebook ads don't work. That just really annoyed me. So I wrote a rebuttal today, which got published. But I wanted to get some data from John, because he's a really good example of what you can do with it. And so he says he started the program on the 12th of April when he had 25 subscribers. And he told me that was mostly friends and family. And he said, whenever I remember this feeling really well, when he would get a new subscriber, he would kind of, when MailChimp says, you've got a new subscriber, he's jumping around the room. And I'm completely there, because I know how hard it was to get them in the early days.
Yeah.
So he said from the 12th of April when he started and until the 30th, he spent $285. So not a huge amount of money. I mean, it's not chump change, but it's not kind of life-changing money. Mm-hmm. But he added 1,420 subscribers. And then through May, he spent $800 and added about 3,300.
Yeah.
He spent 136 in June and added another 492. I mean, it's just, and he's got the whole thing going now. He's got 10 or 15,000 on his list. He's got an advanced team, and he's selling strongly now. He's transitioned into the paid sales elements, and that's working for him too. And that's great. He thinks I'm amazing, which is very flattering. I'm not amazing at all, but it's just really nice to see that kind of result for a very nice guy.
Well, I mean, and speaking as one of those guys who struggled forever, and my list isn't huge now, but it's much bigger than it was for the first couple of years that I started this. I mean, it's a huge deal, and to find somebody who's seemingly as invested as you are in trying to make that grow and gives you something that actually works, I mean, that's pretty rare, man. So I think you're pretty amazing too. So don't don't shuffle that aside, because we live in a world of scams. I mean, we get a lot of people telling us, here's the secret, and it keeps happening again and again. And I've been trying out, and I'm new to the Facebook ad arena here, but it's translating over, by the way. This stuff doesn't just work for books. I mean, I've been using these tricks to help out some of my clients too. So it's pretty amazing. I'm still mastering some things. So
I think Facebook advertising this is kind of slightly hyperbole, but I mean it. I think it's the most powerful ad platform in the world at the moment. So I have bit of a joke. I sent out an email the other day to the self-publishing formula list, all about the 7 touches of advertising. But it was kind of hooked around the fact that we've just bought a hot tub, right? So
I saw that.
It's a stupid thing. We didn't need to buy one, but it's a bit of a luxury, but it's very nice. But we kind of I looked at his business, and I got talking to the guy who runs it, and with a hot tub that costs, they're not cheap, but he's got a side business where he's supplying chemicals for hot tubs to keep them sanitized and everything. And I just looked at that business and I thought, I could make you so much money, because you can target people who have hot tubs, right? It's as good as that. And then you can, if you craft your ads properly and you get them onto a mailing list, and you craft a funnel, so you give them some free stuff, you tell them some articles about how to keep your tub clean, just that kind of really useful value. And then when you've got a relationship with them, then you say that I can sell, I'm happy to sell you some chemicals.
Yeah.
You just look at that business and think, I could double what you make. I could probably triple what you make, just through some carefully crafted Facebook ads.
Yeah.
It's amazing stuff.
Yeah. It's funny because even with what little movement I've had so far, and I'm about to do my first big review of it and do some changes, but I've used services that delivered a lot more leads in a lot shorter time, but they inevitably, I have huge unsubscribe rates from that group.
Yeah.
And so far, I have not had one single person unsubscribe from the leads I gathered through Facebook, because they were so targeted. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Now,
I
I don't
mean,
know how long that's going to last.
yeah, I mean, I find in the kind of grand scheme of the hierarchy of incoming traffic,
Yeah.
organic traffic is the best. So people who've read your book and seen the CTA at the back of the book and then sign up,
Yeah.
they're your perfect subscribers. The other end of the spectrum, things like contests, I don't recommend people doing contests. It's a really good way to blow up a list. You can
Yeah.
add, if you give away an iPad, you can add thousands of people to your list because they want an iPad.
Yeah.
But what do you do with them afterwards? They don't necessarily want a book. They might not even read books.
Right.
So you're going to get horrific unsubscribe and abuse reports.
Yeah.
And you get your MailChimp, or your Aweber account shut down for that kind of stuff.
Or you could always use author.email
You,
for the listeners.
exactly. you could. I'm getting some heavy interest on that now. So yeah, that sounds very good.
I don't mind plugging MailChimp. I mean, I used MailChimp for a long time, but now that Nick and I have author.email out there, just saying, everybody, go check it out.
Yeah, I'd recommend that.
So qualified leads is what you're talking about. I mean,
yeah.
And you're right, because I did, and I've done a couple of giveaways, and I tried to keep them oriented around the work. Give away a Kindle Fire or something like that. But even that, I mean, it's not qualified enough. There's too many people who would just take it just to use as a tablet.
Yeah.
So it doesn't guarantee that they're going to be interested in books in general. So, or your books in particular.
Exactly. That's. I mean, I've done a few of those in the past.
Yeah.
And I've done things like noise trade and stuff like that. But again, I don't really recommend that kind of thing because you're getting just a subscriber, and you know very little about them. And I don't feel comfortable with putting people like that on my list.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how they're going to react when you start to send them a campaign. So be careful with it.
Most of my unsubscribes from the very last email I sent came from the noise trade list, and I'd say probably 50%, I guess, of the people who unsubscribed came from that list and just signed up to to get the free book like a day or two before.
Yeah, that mirrors my kind of experience.
So okay. So there's extreme targeting on Facebook, and it is very granular. I mean, you tell in the course, you talk about the story of the guy who actually got it down to the point where he was targeting one person out of all of Facebook, which I love that story. I remember reading that story actually when that happened, and the significance of it never really hit me until your course.
It's the same here. There was one of those things that when I'd read that as well, and it had obviously registered because it was one of those things triggered me to think I should look into this. And then when you realize actually that is true. It's possible you could do that. I know how I could do it. It's not easy to be that granular, but it is possible.
Yeah. So other than being able to target that well, I mean, what are some other advantages to Facebook ads?
Well, I mean, it's pretty flexible. It's very powerful. The placement opportunities are great. So one thing I've noticed at the moment, I kind of bought the Kool-Aid on everyone saying advertise on mobile. Clicks are cheaper, which is kind of true. But one of my mantras in the course is all those kinds of stats and metrics are interesting and they're useful, but they shouldn't be your driving force. Your driving force should always be, are you making money on this ad? Right. Yeah. So what's your return? If you're not making money, it doesn't matter if your click is 5 cents. As opposed to, I've got ads right now that are running they're costing me 50 cents a click to Amazon, which normally would kill that ad, right? But these ads are returning me. I had one yesterday that I'm experimenting with, so it's a low budget, $10, and I made $65 on that ad. So the return was like 550%, which is ludicrous. And that it won't maintain that as I scale it up, but I would still expect that to hit 250, 300% as I increase the spend.
Yeah.
And the thing with that is, so going back to the mobile thing, I don't think people or all people, and certainly not my readers who tend to be older, 30 to 35, up to 65 and over that, they might browse on their mobiles, but that's not necessarily a comfortable shopping experience for them. That they're not that comfortable with actually buying things on their mobile. Now, I do, but I'm still more comfortable to buy things on desktop, and it's So I just thought, okay, I'll try and just target these ads just to desktop, and I was immediately knocked out by the response. So, ads that are going to desktop and mobile might return 50%, but immediately these ads just to desktop were returning 200%. So that's a free tip for people who might be playing around with Facebook ads right now, because don't necessarily buy the prevailing wisdom and just experiment with different things and see what happens.
So are you having more luck with ads that lead to direct sales or with list building?
Both. I run both at the moment. So I've got a campaign with Russell Blake at the moment, who writes the Jet series. So we're kind of in the same level, and we write the same kind of books. And so we're doing a campaign together. He gives away the first book in the Jet series. I give away the first book in the Milton series. And we're spending, I think, about $15 a day and adding 45 to 50 subscribers a day. So they come into a list that I maintain, and then I'll pass those over to Russell at the end of the week. So that's great and not hugely expensive. But most of my money is going on ads for sales, direct sales at the moment.
And are you sending them directly to Amazon from those ads, or are you sending to a landing page, or how does that work?
Usually through a landing page, because I use affiliate tracking to that's the mechanism I use to ensure that a sale can be attributed specifically to one of my ads.
Yeah.
Because you need to know that for sure to be able to be accurate with assessing the return. But I don't think Facebook cares what kind of links you use, but Amazon does. So the associates program, you're not supposed to use affiliate tracking links in Facebook ads, or you only really supposed to use them on ads that you can on sites that you control.
Yeah.
So it makes more sense, not to you don't want to mess around with with the terms and conditions. So just put those links on your site, and you can either do an auto redirect or have a picture of the book with the stores that people can then click on to buy. It probably reduces the conversion by a few %, but it's better to do that than to mess around.
Yeah, I mean, do you primarily redirect, or do you use the links?
I use the links.
Okay, and have you played around with the other with direct or with redirect? I mean.
A little bit, and yeah, I mean it does work. The thing is, I'm not particularly technically minded, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things people think is, God, you must be brilliant at this, right? You must be able to do your own websites, and I'm just terrible at that. I wouldn't know where to start. So if I want to build a landing page, I will pay my developers to do that for me, and luckily they're not expensive and they're very good. But I'm friends with Nick Stevenson, who's another well-known English indie. Nick's much more technically minded than me, so he will code all his websites and do all that stuff, and that makes my head spin. So I let other people do that for me.
I have my own Nick that I hand everything off to now too. So
yeah, that's the future, definitely.
Everyone needs a Nick.
Yeah.
So okay, that sounds like good advice. The hang up for me with the direct sales was always like, where should I send them? So that answers that question, because I don't mind sending them to a landing page. And actually, if you do that, Amazon's rules actually will let you use your affiliate link, I think, right?
Yes, exactly. As long as it's on a site that you control. So landing page, that's your site. Yeah, they're completely fine with that.
Yeah, perfect.
And there are other benefits of using a kind of an intermediary page. And this is slightly more advanced stuff, but Facebook gives you a tracking pixel that you can install on that page. So what you can do with that is you can build an audience to serve ads in the future to, based on people who visited the sales page. So they're more, that they're warmer than, they're not cold traffic, they're at least lukewarm traffic because they've been to your page before. But then kind of a level up from that, you're also able to build what Facebook calls a lookalike audience based on that custom audience, and that's kind of ninja stuff. But that's the cool stuff too, because what that means is Facebook will try and construct a mirror audience based on the characteristics of another audience that you've got. So it could be your mailing list, it could be traffic to a website, that kind of stuff, and they'll build this mirror audience that should share the same kind of characteristics. But the bonus of that is you might have, say you've got 50 people on your mailing list. Facebook will build you a mirror audience of up to 2.2 million and up. So you're not going to exhaust that audience. And some of my biggest returning ads are to those kind of big 2.5 million audiences that, at my level of $500 a day, I'm not going to get through that many people in a year probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of that makes my head spin. Which is,
Yeah.
I think, why I stayed away from Facebook ads for so long. I think I was intimidated. I mean, what would you say? Because there's a lot to it, and ultimately, it's not actually all that complicated. But they sure go out of their way to make it look complicated
Yeah.
when you're on there. I mean, what would you say to someone to kind of encourage them to kind of stick it out?
Well, I'd say, I mean, I am not. When I started this, I was just like, most people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not particularly technically minded. I'm quite tenacious, and if I want to learn something, I'll work really hard until I've learned it and got it down. But if I can do it, then I think most people could probably do it. And you say it looks difficult, and that is the way I would say that's how I look at it too. The Power Editor, which is the interface that I recommend for administering and creating your ads, it is not intuitive. I think it's quite badly designed.
Yeah.
It does take a little bit of getting used to, and then they've changed it recently, so it's possibly not for the better. But if you can refer to, there's plenty of free resources out there. So from my own free videos will teach you how to use the Power Editor, and there are courses by me, by Amy Porterfield, by Rick Mulready, kind of slightly more generalist. They'll teach you how to use that, and it's just practice. Once you've done it for a bit, it becomes pretty easy to get your head around it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that intimidation factor that I think keeps people away. But how do you, I mean, with the course, I mean, how are you keeping up with, as Facebook shifts the way they do things? I mean, how do you keep things relevant and up to date?
Yeah, that's a pain. We launched the course the first time in June, I think it was. And we, expecting crickets. Really, if I'm being honest, I didn't expect many people to buy into it, and I was completely knocked out by by the response. Was just really amazing and very flattering. But the course took me months to do, and I massively underestimated how much work there is involved in doing a course. And there were 3 of us as well, so I've got 2 guys who work with me to do some filming, and they do the website and the tech stuff, which leaves me to do promotion, write the course, present the course, all that kind of stuff. But even with help, it was like, oh my God, I massively underestimated this. And I was quite close a few times to going, you know what, this is just not worth it. I'm a writer. I'm not going to get into the course business. And I nearly stopped. But I pushed on, and we got it done. And then about, I don't know, 6 weeks after we kind of closed the cart the first time, Facebook completely changed the interfaces. Both of them, the Ads Manager and the Power Editor, are very, very different now than when I did the course originally. And so I could put the course out again and just go, yeah, it's kind of, it'll take you a bit longer to work this out, but the back end is pretty much the same. It's just how it looks. But I can't do that. That would be a really terrible experience for people who want to learn this. So what we're doing, and actually starting next week, is I'm re-recording all of the screen flows of me telling people how to do this stuff, which is a massive pain in the backside. But it's yeah, I was kind of I was thinking, actually, do I even want to re-release the course again? We've done well. Do I want to do it again? Yeah. And yeah, we thought about it, and you kind of get these emails from guys saying that I'd left my job, and this is because I've had with people saying like, we just paid my daughter's tuition fees for the next 2 years.
Man, the guilt.
I know. It is, and there's it's not all peaches and cream. When you've got something like this, it's not a cheap product. I mean, it's great value for money, but it's not an impulse buy. When you get people who have stretched themselves to buy it, I feel really, really responsible for them. I'll work very hard to probably harder than I've said that I would, to try and make it work for them.
Yeah.
And that is a lot of work. It is. When I'm in, there's a Facebook group we've got with over 1,000 people in it now, just talking about ads. I mean, I've learned stuff in that group, but I do try and be in it every day and help people as much as I can. But there's only so much for me to go around. So it's,
and you got books to write.
And I've got books to write, exactly.
So, okay. And I mean, what is the priority there? I mean, I appreciate that you're out helping schmoes like me to do better at this and to become better at this and reach at least your level of success. But I mean, it's got to be the priority to write the books, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you say, like, what do you do? If someone asks me at a dinner party, what do I do? I don't say I make courses on Facebook ads. Right? That's something that I do, but it isn't what I do. And if I had to choose, I would do. I'd write. I've always wanted to be a writer. That's kind of my lifelong ambition, and I just feel massively grateful to be able to do that now, and to I make more money now than I've ever made before, and
Yeah.
that's with a legal salary. It's amazing, and yeah, I'd choose that in a heartbeat. That's what I love.
I'm right there with you, man. I'm choosing it every single freaking day.
Good for you.
So, all right. Well, we're at the. I promised you I'd keep this around 45 minutes, and we just hit that. So, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I'm hoping that people listening got a lot out of this. I know I did. And if you're interested, by the way, listener, in getting into this, go check out selfpublishingformula.com. You can find this course. It'll be freshly updated soon, which is good. Highly recommend it. I really do. I mean, even if you drop in now, I learned enough that I was able to navigate around and figure out the power editor. So it's still relevant. It still works.
Yeah.
So very good. And of course, pick up Mark's books. Mark Dawson, go look him up on Amazon. I'll put a link to the to his author page in here, and definitely start buying some John Milton books. Not the other John Milton. He's not as interesting. He's not as cool. But go figure out who John Milton is. So, Mark, thanks so much for joining me, man. And stick around after I close this out, and we'll have a quick chat. So,
Will do. My pleasure.
everyone else, stick around for the wrap-up, and we'll see you next week. All right, that was Mark Dawson, and I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. I get a lot out of it. There are a lot of programs out there, a lot of training programs out there. Some are better than others. If you've been listening for any length of time to this show, you know that I interviewed Joseph Michael Nicoletti, who is the Scrivener coach who created the Learn Scrivener Fast course. That's a course I recommend to anyone who wants a writing career, because Scrivener is a piece of software I recommend to anyone. You can find links to that, by the way, on my resource page at kevintumlinson.com/resources, both the course and the software. And I think I'm going to put a link to Mark Dawson's Facebook Ads for Authors course. Don't know why that blew right out of my head just now, because it is one of the training courses that I recommend to people all the time, because I get so much out of it. I think you will too. So I'm going to put a link to that on the resources page. But for now, you can check the show notes. You can find links to it. But if you go to, and I believe the site, I mean, I know you can go to markjdawson.com, and I'm sure you can get to it from there. But you can go to selfpublishingformula.com, and that's where the actual course lives, I believe. So go check that out. It's worth every penny you pay for it. Believe me, I paid for it twice. So sorry for all the swallowing all of a sudden. I'm having one of those mornings. I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. I wanted to mention real quick, there's a project I've been working on, and it's getting closer to completion. I just finished we'll call it the second or third draft of my book, The 30-Day Author. And this is going to be aimed at, it's aimed at people who are just kind of getting into this, who they know they need a book. There's a little bit in there for the fiction author, because I don't like to leave you guys out, because I'm one of you. But I will admit that a lot of it is geared towards people who, they're speakers or they're consultants or whatever, and they need a book, and they want one sooner rather than later. But everything in there works for the fiction author. If you're just getting into this, it's not a book about craft. It's more about developing a daily writing habit and the discipline of writing. And it gives you a formula for writing a book in 30 days, or you can apply that same formula and scale it up and down and write a book in 15 days or 5 days, whatever you want. It just depends on how much energy and effort you want to put into it. I've seen this process work with people I coach in this business. It's what got me to the point where, I could write a book in a month or 15 days or however frequently I like. So the process really does work. So I'm getting that closer to completion. Right now there's a foreword being written by a future show guest, Honor A. Corder, who wrote Prosperity for Writers. So she's working on a nifty foreword for that book. and I'm recording the audiobook for it. So there's a lot happening on that front. So be on the lookout for that. And I just want to make you aware. I want to get the awareness out there because it's coming. I think you're going to enjoy that. If you want to learn more about it, you may want to hop on my mailing list. You can get the starter library, which is 3 fiction books, all for free. And you can go to kevintumlinson.com/starter library and get that. So otherwise, I'd like you to go to wordslingerpodcast.com where you can catch up on back episodes of this show. You can leave me a voicemail right from that page. You can send me an email from that page. Ask me anything. You can also ask me straight up if you call 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673, which will give you direct access to the voicemail system so you can leave me a question or a comment or anything you like. So if you leave me something cool, I can play it on the air for you. So do it. So I hope you enjoyed this interview with Mark Dawson. I hope you're enjoying the show in general. I'd love to get some feedback. I'd love to hear what you think, some advice or suggestions about, show topics or people I could interview or things I might add or change or delete or whatever. So keep tuning in. I'm really glad you're here. I'm very grateful for you being here. And, I hope I'm providing something good for your life. That's really kind of the only point of this. I mean, I've got all kinds of reasons why this show exists. It gives me a platform for talking to the people that, motivate me and inspire me. That's great. But it also gives me an opportunity to share what I'm learning and, we can all grow together. So I hope you're getting something good out of this. I know I am. I mean, I would do the show regardless of anyone else listening to it because it is my opportunity to talk to these people. So take care of yourselves. Tune in again next week. We'll have another great episode. Be sure to check the show notes for links for all of Mark's stuff. You can go to selfpublishingformula.com. We'll get you to pretty much everything. And please call me, 281-809-WORD, 281-809-9673, and visit me at wordslingerpodcast.com. And we will see you next week.
Word Slinger.